What's up, everybody? This is Donnie Stern, bringing you a new episode of whatever this series is going to be called. I don't know. Right now, I'm playing 4 tables of 2-5 Zoom. And top left, I'm pretty deep with these two players, and I flatted pre with pocket fours and flopped a set, and my opponent potted it. I thought about donking, but this deep, I'm a little bit weary of donking a hand that is strong, but also probably not super strong if you get in 200 big blinds unapproved. So I'm going to just call that flop bet with that same thought process. It's not that check raising is like negative EV or anything. It's just definitely not the best way to play the hand. It's more balanced to be check calling here with this set. That turn card, not good, but there's not really much I can do other than just check this river. My hand's strong enough that I don't need to bluff with it. If he has, some sort of ace X or queen X hand, obviously I still win, so I don't need to bluff with my hand. If I had gotten to the river with something worse, if I got into the river maybe with like queen jack of spades or something, I might feel the need to bluff the river. And I'm just going to fold top left there. I think I can check call with... The truth is, I don't have that many hands that have a heart in them, since I'm not calling with like unpaired big cards, unpaired offsuit big cards there pre-flop. But I do have stuff like 9s, 10s, jacks, things like that. King, queen, with or without a heart. So I do have some hearts there. So it's moving a little bit slow right now, Zoom, since it's kind of late at night. This is the same session from my DC short from last week. It feels weird saying that, considering I recorded it 10 minutes ago. But I'm going to Vegas soon, so I had to record a bunch of sessions, since you can't play poker in America. So you can play poker, but only where they tell you to. I'm going to 3-bet. Oh, I got to turn off the sounds. I'm going to 3-bet that ace-5 suited. And this guy, pretty much anytime somebody 3-bets me less than 3x, especially when I'm in position, and especially if we're like slightly deeper, I'm pretty much never folding anything I opened with. Maybe if I had opened with like king 5 off, I would fold that here. If I'm getting 3-bet and the guy's making it so small, there's just no way I'm going to fold to that sizing. It's just how it is. I think it's pretty clearly plus EV to be calling with most of my range here. The offsuit 10 on the turn, he's not the best card, but when he checks, it feels like he's very often just giving up. But I do think that somebody who I've never seen before, even though he has like relatively standard stats, I think he's a little bit more likely than others to both check a strong hand on the turn and occasionally bluff on the river on a brick. I think most regulars, if you go check here and an offsuit deuce comes in the river, for the most part, nobody's really going to bluff. So I don't think me checking the turn with jack 9 would have much impact on his bluffing frequency on the river for most players. This is obviously a card I expect a lot of people to bluff on, but still, that doesn't mean my hand is strong enough to call, I'm pretty sure, since yes, he does probably bluff on this, but it also just smashes a lot of his 3-betting range from pre-flop. So, I mean, I could hero call hoping that he has any of his bluffs, but he's also just going to simply have ace-king, ace-queen, king-queen, diamonds, or something even stronger too often. So I'm just going to fold a jack 9. And I can have a flush there, so I don't feel like I'm always folding if I'm folding a jack. You see that I open to 3.5x under the gun. I don't really know. Sometimes I'm in 3x. If it's a really deep table, I'll open bigger. I don't think it's like something I'm gonna talk too much about, is opening sizes in any of those positions. For the most part, this is a bet again. My pocket 9s with the 2 flush draws. Even though there's 3 to a straight out there, talking bottom right here. Even though there's 3 to a straight out here, you look at this guy's stats. Not the best. It's way too likely that he's just going to peel again if he has any kind of a draw. I'm betting pretty big because I want to set it up to just be able to bet big on the river. I do think that river card hurts my chances of getting hero called by like 9x or something like that, or even worse. So I'm gonna bet a little bit smaller. I should have bet the 8s on the top left there. Not really sure why I checked it. It's just a good flop to bet. Let's see what our friend had. He had ace-8, so obviously if I knew he had ace-8, I'd probably just jam it on the river. But it's not something you'd have to really know, obviously. So I just called with king 10 off, blind versus blind, in a spot where I'm going to 3-bet a lot of hands. But king 10 off doesn't need to be one of them. My hand, simply put, just plays a lot better as a flatting hand because I keep in a lot of his range that my hand actually dominates. You know, stuff like 10x, king x, just his smaller cards. I'm opening queen 9 suited, bottom left. I'd say I'm barely making money by doing that. If I am making money at all, it could easily just be a fold. I'm going to donk this. I've been trying to donk more hands. Well, I get min raised. This is a spot where I'm kind of happy to fast play. My king queen suited here, just because I think there's a reasonable chance that he's going to fold and he's bluffing. Well, obviously not when he just snap min raises, but it's just, you know, my hands. It's not that my hand's vulnerable. It's just I'm vulnerable to losing action. You know, he might min raise with like aces and then shuts down when like, you know, a ton of turn cards can hit. And so better for me to, I think, just raise now, and he also might peel with whatever he happened to have in that hand. I've just flat here with ace queen. That was a mistake. I wasn't paying enough attention to this guy's stats because I was talking about the hand. Bottom left, you know, ace queen. A lot of times somebody opens under the gun. I'm not going to 3-bet them with ace queen. I'll have a little bit of more polarized range. Although I mean, obviously depends on the player. But this is a spot where definitely against this player, I want to be 3-betting ace queen off. I want to isolate myself against the weaker player, and I want to build a pot because I'm ahead of his range. I mean, I know this isn't like some super advanced thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about why to 3-bet ace queen, but just explaining it out for whatever reason. So there, I didn't forget on the top right to 3-bet it versus these two guys with loose stats. I think I'm going to call the ace queen bottom left. I am not like thrilled about this call. I don't think it's like super fist pump call, but the fact that this guy is kind of, you know, I don't want to use the word, but you know, that it just makes it that much more likely that he would be doing exactly what he's doing. I think for the most part against good players, when you see them take that check bet, bet check bet line on that specific board, you're going to see a lot of like pocket pairs, middle pocket pairs, I think. Where they think I have a higher pocket pair than them too often to bet the turn, but then it goes check, check, and they figure I have ace high, so they bet the river. I'm gonna fold the 5s there. That's a spot that I've been trying to come up with my best answer what to do in those spots when I have baby pairs and I get 3-bet. And even though the guy, like, I mean, if he made it, you know, I opened to 15. If he made it 45, I would just snap fold and not think about it. But once he starts making it, you know, 40. 37.5, those numbers. That's when I start thinking like, there's got to be that point at which he's giving me too good of a price to fold. Even though I only have deuces, 3s, 4s, 5s, whatever, and I'm going to check fold most flops. There's a certain point where that amount that he's 3-betting to is just too small for you to fold. You're getting too good of a price. You're going to turn a profit. You know, if you put in $20 or something to see a flop, you're getting good enough pot odds. This guy is playing kind of crazy. So I'm going to call my ace-9 suited. If he was a little bit more in line, I might decide to 4-bet with my ace-9 suited, or if he was playing really nitty, I might just fold my ace-9 suited. But against somebody who's playing really crazy, I think flatting with ace-9 suited is to the 3-bet. Even though I'm out of position, it's not like an ideal spot, but as a sort of adjustment to my default strategy, I think this is correct. I think my hand plays well enough against his 3-betting range, and the fact that I'm suited, I have enough flops that I can continue on. Something like ace-9 off, even though I might be doing okay against his 3-betting range, if he actually has like a really sick 4-betting or 3-betting range there, it still would probably rather 4-bet the ace-9 off, call with the ace-9 suited, just because, you know, this ace-9 off is just going to be so much harder to play when I flat. Like when you flat a 3-bet out of position, even when they make a small 3-bet, it's not an easy spot to play, and it's going to be very difficult to make a lot of good decisions there because, I mean, just put it plainly, you're out of position. The other guy has the, I hate saying this word, but he has the, you know, the impetus. He's going to be continuation betting a lot. It's just not an easy spot to play. So, you know, the quality of your hand is that much more important. When it's a 4-bet pot, you know, you only have 2x pot behind or 3x pot behind. It's a much simpler spot. Position matters less, so that's why I would use ace-9 off for that hand, for that situation. I'm just going to jam the ace-king off here. There's 2 flush draws out there. It's a balanced line. I mean, that's just an outrageously bad call. It's a balanced line to be taking with most of my hands there, since I'm going to have draws some percentage of the time. I mean, wow, I can't believe he just snap called with pocket jacks. It's not like I have that many, you know, flush draws that don't have an ace, king, or queen, or that many suited cards that don't have an ace, king, or queen in my hand when I 3-bet him. I like 3-betting him 25%. Okay, anyway, moving on. You know, what's interesting is I think at certain times, it seems like 2-5 is softer than 1-2, which it wouldn't be unexpected, you know. I mean, it's very common in live poker rooms or on, you know, in nosebleeds that the highest stakes game is softer than the second highest. It's frequently the second highest stakes game is usually the toughest game in the room, for what I think are obvious reasons. Well, I flopped a set with my 7s here in the bottom right. Pretty exciting. Good board to flop a set on, and pretty good opponents to have it against. So this guy actually had like really crazy stats earlier, this Rocks 50 guy, but he seems to be coming down to being more in line lately. But we'll see. He's from Russia. So many Russians on PokerStars. Compared to like 4 years ago, the amount of Russians and Brazilians has just exploded. And Germans. Russians, Brazilians, and Germans are just everywhere now in poker. Out of all those, I'd say Germans are the best. I considered opening 4-3 suited here. You know, this really big nit in the small blind makes me tempted, but a solid player in the button and a really loose guy in the big, probably not good enough. I think when you're facing somebody who's like that in the big blind, it's just like a really loose player. It's just a little bit more important to just have big cards when you're gonna start expanding your opening range, and you're gonna start playing a little bit looser in spot. I think generally the first hands you want to start expanding to are just the big cards. You know, King 9 off when you would normally only open King 10 off or something like that, rather than, you know, necessarily trying to open the baby suited cards, things like that. Just because if they're calling with tons of hands, you know, he's calling with like Jack 8 off and stuff. Just having some big cards is going to be better against his range, and you're going to end up giving yourself more. You're going to end up giving yourself more situations to. Man, I was really hoping I had 1,234.56 cents, but it's 57. Damn it. Anyway, you're going to give yourself more situations where you're kind of dominating him or getting him in a spot where he's, you know, just has a second best hand. Whereas if you have like 3-4 suited, it doesn't exactly play great against his ridiculously loose range. I've experimented with 8-tabling Zoom. It's not easy, that's to say the least. It's pretty hard, but it's definitely doable, and I think better multi-tablers out there should be fine doing it. And man, you can play a lot of hands when you do it. I mean, you really can play a ton of poker hands. I'm just going to flat the queens here against this guy. He's 14-12 and he opened under the gun. So like, it's not that 3-betting is negative EV, but I'd rather, I'm going to bet this king-queen. When he 3-bets from the big and checks this flop, I think he's check folding a decent amount. I don't think this guy, wow, I guess he's not check folding that flop. Little bit surprised to see this guy check call this board texture. I'm thinking he probably has something like pocket 8s, pocket 10s. I think it's because he's so nitty pre-flop, I don't think he has something like 9-10 suited or 7-8 suited too often. So I'm gonna be definitely a little bit nervous if he check raises this turn. Don't think I can fold though. I really don't think I can fold. It just seems too unlikely that if he decided to check call aces or kings on the flop, that he would then, or that if he decided to check aces or kings on the flop, that he would decide to check call, not check raising. It just seems unlikely. There's 2 flush draws out there. I think I just have to peel. I mean, I wasn't happy about it, but I think I had to call there with the queens. I mean, he played the hand. Well, I don't want to talk about how he played the hand, but I think I have to call there just with the 2 flush draws out there. It's more likely that he's just randomly getting out of line with something that you wouldn't expect him to, or that he just like made a silly decision and decided to check raise all in with 10s or 8s or something like that because the 2 flush draws. And that's more likely than him having jacks, aces, or kings. Or not necessarily it's more likely, but it's likely enough that I have to call, I think. That's not a great spot, definitely. I mean, against a lot of people, I'd be like snap calling and fist pumping with queens there, but not against that guy with the stats he had. I need to make a bigger 3-bet here against God of heads up. That's quite the ballsy screen name, God of heads up. You can't be a bum hunter if your name is God of heads up. You have to pretty much play everyone if you're going to claim that you were the God of heads up. I want to bet to sort of balance them out in this spot. Something that seems believable that I could have queen 10 or 9-10 or 7-9 suited or something like that, even though I probably wouldn't call 7-9 suited 3, but you know, the similar stuff, 9-10 suited. I am peeling an open. Oh, fuck me. Sorry about that. I had to pause the video and just. Damn it. Okay. That should never happen. I had to pause the video and fix something in the room. Turn off the AC, and I missed the kings. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was talking about 8-tabling Zoom earlier. It's really tough, but man, if you're trying to get Supernova lead or anything like that, I don't know that there's like a better way to just smash in as many hands as possible. Like for me, I can 8-table Zoom. Not like, I wouldn't use the word comfortably. It's a struggle for me to do it, but I can do it. I can't, 22-table playing regular games. So if I were ever to try that, I think I would definitely try to get on an 8-tabling Zoom schedule. So we're getting 4-bet here. Certainly nothing wrong with sticking it in with ace-queen when you get 4-bet in a lot of spots. But I'm going to peel because he gave me a great price to peel. He gave me really good odds, so I'm going to take it and take a flop in position. Obviously, I don't really expect him to be 4-bet calling with worse than ace-queen ever. So it is pretty much just a semi bluff. With if I jam, I'm just hoping he's going to fold usually. But obviously, if he calls with nines, tens, jacks, it's not a terrible situation for me. That's a pretty nut low flop for me. King 5-7 flush draw without a backdoor draw for me. So I'm just going to fold there. That is a spot where I have ace high. I'm going to peel a lot of his flop bets even when I don't pair up. But King 5-7 with a flush draw, that's not mine. I mean, that's not a backdoor for me. That's pretty much on the bottom of flops. Minus like 7, 8, 9, all of one suit. That's not mine or something. So I'm 3-betting my aces here. Let's fold it again. I should have 3-bet a little bit bigger considering this guy's somewhat deep, but I have position, so it's not as important to make the bigger 3-bet. I'm going to start opening to 15 from under the gun, I think. I was doing 17.5 for a while, but I'm going to see if I notice any difference in making it smaller. I expect this guy to check call this flop bet a lot, since I think he has a lot of pocket pairs, but I'm comfortable with barreling on this board texture, even though I'm not super likely to turn any kind of draw. I mean, I can't turn any kind of draw, actually, to be quite literal. I'm comfortable with enough with the fact that I think he's just going to have tons of pocket pairs, and it means I have to give it at least 2 shots to win the pot. Obviously, when big cards come out, I'm going to be more likely to keep bluffing versus little cards. I think just represent more hands. I should have c-bet in the bottom left. I just didn't because I was talking for some reason. If I'm not going to c-bet some like pocket pair hand, it's obviously don't c-bet like kings and queens and jacks there, but got to c-bet with sixes. First of all, he just folds sometimes when he has a better hand, when he has middle pocket pairs. And secondly, when he has just like random middle cards, I either A, check to him and let him win the pot, when if I just bet, he would have folded, and B, even if it goes check, check, it's just net negative for me to go check, check when I have sixes and he has like 8, 9 suited there because I just give him free look at 6 outs when I could have won the pot. I'm going to call my 7 suited here. If he 3x'd it, I would have folded, but 2.5x, I think I can peel. You guys may notice I have started to, and this is largely, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me, but I'm also being influenced by some people that I talk poker with a lot, just becoming increasingly just like psychotically loose from the big blind when people open to, 2x or 2.5x, especially when I have something reasonable. Gonna c-bet this 9-10, even though this guy's like kind of ridiculously loose. I think it's worth it just to try to get him to fold his non-paired hands. I'm just gonna give up on a offsuit 5. Pretty much calling every bet now though on the river. I'm gonna bet this 9-10 off on the river against this guy. I think if he had a queen, he would just pretty much always bet the river. So, gonna open my 9-10 suited. Open my king deuce suited in the small blind. I open not too many hands in the small blind, and I tend to open kind of big. when I do. I'm gonna fold my 9-10 suited here just because he only has 320 and he kind of bombed it pre. I can't really call here with 9-10 suited, even though, you know, all the other players are deep, but the guy who 3-bet is not, and I have to fold, I think. I gotta say, Zoom has just like reignited my joy of playing No Limit. I just only played PLO for like the last, not only, but mostly played PLO for like the last 2 years, and just ever since they opened up Zoom No Limit, I've been back on the No Limit grind, and I mean, it's been a lot more fun than PLO lately for me. I check back this flop with the King Jack. I'm just gonna take a stab on the turn. I'm pretty clearly not representing a huge amount of hands when I take this sort of unbalanced line. Not unbalanced, but it's just a little suspicious that I check back the flop and bet the turn. There's not really many pairs I can have, since most pocket pairs he probably assumes I would bet the flop with. So at best, I might be just representing ace high. But sometimes I think a bet might not make entirely a ton of sense in theory. But if it just simply turns a profit, then I'm happy to break from theory and do it. I just think he's going to fold off it enough when he goes check check twice on the flop and turn. Wow, I want to call here with ace six suited. I don't think it's like good against most people, but I've seen him open to 25 before, so it seems like it's just a standard. And you see his stats. I think it's important to just try to get involved in pots in any way you can with these guys. I can't do anything really with my hand on this board texture though. Well, he had ace six. Well, our friend here, the Meganit from Poland, might have just flatted with a big hand and stacked me here, but if he did, that's how it's going to be. Pretty standard ace king versus queen spot. I'm going to check fold my king 10 off here. I don't frequently check fold too often when I have like 2 overcards, and 2 overcards is a reasonable amount of semi-bluffing outs. But I figure I can't probably be c-betting this board like 100%, and there's enough 3-betters on my table here that I'm going to flat with my aces in the bottom right. Basically, I can't quite always be c-betting that board, I don't think, with king 10 on 9-4-5 with a flush draw. So better off just, c-bet when you have like king 10 with at least with a heart in it or something like that, and then just check fold when you have king 10 with nothing. This was a pretty aggro table that I got drawn to in this hand with the aces, so that's why I decided to flat with them. Once this happens, I'm just gonna raise. I don't think he's like super weak to be betting this, but I don't want to let the player in behind with a lot of draws and whatever else he can have. And 3-way, I think my equity goes down, and I'm still happy to get it in, especially when I have aces without a club. It's just that much more likely that one of them has enough flush draw to be in the spot when it continues. 4 of clubs is more or less the worst card in the deck for me. 5 of clubs, 4 of clubs, 8 of clubs, all pretty similar. I think pretty comfortably can just check fold this turn. If he checks, there's some chance he has like 8s or 9s or 10s or something like that, and then I can actually win this pot. But I mean, when he bombs it there, he's pretty clearly setting up for a big bet in the river. It doesn't necessarily mean that he has the nuts or anything, but I think it pretty much means that I have to face another bet, and I can't call, honestly. There's just way too many flushes in his range. He could have a set. And he can't really have a set, I don't think, with this line, but he just has a flush a lot, I think. If I had aces through the club, it'd be kind of a strange spot. Since, like, what the hell can he have? I don't know if he would bomb it with a set there. Getting a little crazy. 3-bet this guy with 7-5 suited. 5-4 suited under the gun. Definite fold. Cards are just too small. I think the pace of 4-tabling Zoom is on the video is like pretty comfortable. I don't think it's tough at all, honestly. You know, what do I think about c-betting on the bottom right? I'm trying to ask myself. I think for the most part, when he flats small blind this spot, he has a lot of pocket pairs, like middle of pocket pairs, and just like Broadway cards. And I think I'm like reasonably likely to get to showdown and beat his like, you know, Queen Jack suited anyway. So I don't think I necessarily have to bet just for that one part of his range. I am going to 4-bet this guy. Don't think this is like a required 4-bet. I think I can flat ace king in this spot sometimes. In this specific time, I decided to 4-bet because it's obviously going to happen quite a lot. Him and I have been 3-betting, 4-betting each other a good amount. So I thought maybe that might slightly weigh it towards 4-betting, which is more or less standard, but I just think I can definitely flat there. Whenever I'm out of position, though, and it's kind of a close spot, and I know that 4-betting is like a pretty strong option, I'm always going to be kind of likely just to do it because I'm out of position. You know, why? You know, don't need to necessarily complicate things and try to outplay him post flop from out of position. It's just a spot where I'm frequently gonna. Well, like I said, he made it less than 3x my raise. I'm in position. Really want to call. 8-9 off might be too weak, but then again, if I had 9-10 off, I would pretty much always call. So I'm gonna call with 8-9 off. Here's another example. I got 4-bet. I mean, this is just an absurdly small 4-bet considering we're deep. We're 200 big blinds deep. I can't ever fold King 9 suited there. It would be disaster. I'm going to fold the 6-5 suited, though. Let's see about this. And I'm going to fold this. And I'm going to just raise my King 9 suited. I think overall in a balance, flatting here might be better. But I think it looks kind of bluffy a lot of the time. And I think I want to build a pot against ace king, and well, now I don't want to build a pot against ace king. Weird line by him to take. Well, I'm still not folding, and I'm gonna get stacked. Just might have to happen. Don't think I should fold my hand here. I'm not thrilled about this. I do think he has ace king a good amount of time, but I don't think I can fold. I think it's definitely possible he took this as like a goofy bluffing line with like queen 10, jack 10 suited, 9-10, something like that. I think it's definitely possible. My hand's a little bit too strong to fold, I think. I'd much rather have a set, but well, that is what I suspected if he was bluffing, that he had a hand like that. And I don't know that it's important that I had king 9 suited. I think as long as I have a king in my hand, it's good enough. King queen. Well, king 9 is good because as unlikely as it is for him to have a set with that line, I do block a little bit more of his, his pocket nines. Then again, I mean, I block his pocket nines. I block his ace nine. I think there is a difference between king nine there and just some other random king. Definitely there is. And also, I don't have I wasn't blocking any of his bluffing cards really, unless he turns a 9 into a bluff. I wasn't blocking a 10 jack or a queen. So the fact that I'm not blocking him from having jack 10, queen jack, queen 10. I didn't say specifically queen jack when I was rambling off hands that I could beat in that spot, but that is obviously queen jack suited is obviously one that goes along in that sort of theme of queen 10 or 10 jack. I don't really like his line. I guess I fold. I mean, I fold my bluffs on the turn. I probably don't try to rebluff him there. But unfortunately, the problem is I don't have too many one pair like value raises on that flop. It's not like I'm raising queen king for value. So it's not like I have tons of like semi weakish value hands that he's going to get me off of. For the most part, I'm pretty polarized on that flop. I'm like bluff raising, or I have two pair plus. I don't think I'm like giving anything away when I say that when in a 4-bet pot, when I raise the flop, I'm 200 big blinds deep, that I don't usually have one pair. I think that's like pretty standard for all. It's an interesting line for him for sure though. I mean, I did consider folding, but and obviously if I'm folding king 9 suited there, it's like gotta be plus EV, right? For him to make that bluff, but I didn't. So I 3-bet with 7-9 suited. Gotta try to stick it to them after you stack them. 400 big blind pot. I'm gonna turn my threes into a bluff here. I've been experimenting with 3-betting threes in this spot lately. Now, typically, if I 3-bet a baby pair, it's usually 3-betting it to 5-bet it, but in this spot, I'm actually just going to fold. I don't think this guy 4-bets me enough, I think he just folds to tons of 3-bets, and that's why I kind of did it. Well, he doesn't fold to tons of 3-bets, but he folds to enough 3-bets that I think I can just 3-bet with threes there. So I'm going to record for another 7 or so minutes. And that should be good for this week. I actually thought this would be a little bit more frantic for tabling Zoom on video. I thought it would be a lot crazier, but it's not. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about that threes hand where I 3-bet but didn't 5-bet. For the most part, like I said, when I 3-bet baby pair, when I think it's a spot to 3-bet baby pairs, the reason I'm doing it for the most part, it's because I think it's part of when you start to 3-bet hands to 5-bet bluff, I think because of I think if you're going to start expanding your 3-bet to 5-bet range to include semi-bluffs, baby pairs are for the most part the best hands to do it with. I think that's like well documented and very obvious, and a lot of people adhere to that. Then the question becomes, are they good 3-betting hands when you get flatted? Yes, you do sometimes flop huge, but then for the most part, anytime you don't flop huge, you have basically the worst hand in your range, which sucks, clearly. But it's not you can't underestimate the fact that sometimes when you get flatted and you flop a set, that's like pretty massive. But still, I'd rather 3-bet a hand like, 8-9 suited that can just flop tons of draws and I can barrel with it a lot more often. Whereas, I'm just not going to be barreling on tons of board textures when I have pocket threes. And I the fact that I have a set is just sometimes just not going to be good enough in terms of a 3-betting hand. And then, the other considerations in that spot, whether or not to 3-bet the threes or to call with it or to fold it, is pretty much the players behind me. If I'm looking at a very passive table, I'm just going to flat the threes there a lot in position because I think it's that much more likely I get to play a flop in position, whatever. If it's a very aggro table, I would probably just fold. If it's kind of taggish, I think, aggressive but fairly tight, that's when it starts to become a good 3-betting spot. Because you still are going to get squeezed a decent amount, but you're also not like super likely to just get cold 4-bet or anything like that. Well, this board ran out just about as bad as it could in the Jack-8 suited hand, but I don't think there's much I can do on the river. I don't think I should bet. I don't really think I should bluff here. If my hand were a little worse, I might bluff. I think that's just that exact situation is like justification in some ways for my play. It's just when I go check, I can still win a decent amount, so I'm going to be bluffing there a little bit less. All right, so it seems to be dying down. Zoom, there's like very few people in the lobby right now. It's going really slow and pretty much time's almost up on the video. So I'm going to call it quits after this hand. So my first Zoom video, I want you guys please to question, comment, all that. Let me know what you think of the format, how it can be changed for the better. And I guess that's it for DiscusCrack.com. This is Donnie Stern, and I'll see you guys next week.